Hello? Can you guys hear me? So make sure testing. Someone can just give me the okay. Mic is good. Appreciate it. What's going on, guys? What's going on? You guys hear me? So make sure testing. All right, let me just mute this real quick. There we go. What's going on, PW? What's going on, Tilu? Daniel, Neil, Gaston, Randy. 442. Where did you get 442? Wait, Gaston, are you bearish now, guy? Tell me you're joking right now, right? In the middle of all this, on the busiest week, with SPY mooning, you're really bearish. That's pretty hilarious. I'm not gonna lie, I am bullish right now. Usually I am typically bearish, but in this scenario, I mean, let the good times roll. Today was just one of those days where a lot of people printed, a lot of people probably lost some money, but I think for the most part, a lot of people came out with probably some five-digit gains for that. It was an amazing day. I think Tesla was pretty much just an early Christmas gift for everyone. Maybe you could say it was a Halloween gift, Thanksgiving gift. But I do think that there's a little more to come here. But I would stay patient, and I'll go through pretty much what I was looking at with Tesla and how I was looking at it, level by level for that matter. So that way you guys actually get ready for tomorrow. If we do see any kind of continuation, replication of what was today, that way you're prepared pretty much. But let's start off with S&P and Nasdaq, and then we'll jump right into Tesla and we'll go from there. But first, let's talk about S&P here. As we see right now, I drew a little bit of a resistance line. As you see this little green line right here. And this is what I kind of want to bring a little bit more of attention to, because this actually dates back to mid-April. And so now it looks like we're just teetering this as a resistance level. As you pretty much see, every time we've hit in this resistance level, it looks like we've had some kind of drop off. There was one point in time in which that was late August in which we pushed over, we dipped under, and then we just made a nice little run, consolidated before we fell back off. So I'm using this line pretty much as a resistance now here as we just continue to push from that recent inverse head and shoulders that we had. And as you see, we're pretty much just pointing north as futures are just booming right now. And so I'm looking, according to also to the fib here, I'm looking at 44.62 as the overall move. Now, that does not mean that it's going to hit tomorrow or the day after. That's just the overall projection of where I'm looking at for a target before we necessarily get this dump. And for whatever reason that dump may be. And I'll also give you an insight on pretty much what I expect may cause that dump. But 44.62 is 46.24 is what my overall move is what I'm targeting. And so I'm going to continue to see this push higher, but if we do end up getting some kind of reversal off of futures here by the morning, then I'm looking first, my first level of support I'm looking at is 45.48. And then this little shaded area, I'm pretty much using it as my demand zone right now, in which I'm expecting buyers to step in. So if we end up breaking below this fib of 45.48 as support, then I'm expecting buyers to step in within this range of 45.29 to a low here of that's 45.15. So that would be the range in which I'm going to look for buyers to step in if for any reason that we get a reversal come tomorrow morning. I want to use that as my dip buy entry within that demand zone. And then I'll take that ride right back up as we continue the uptrend. So I think that'll be a little bit of like what you would say is an exhaustion, a dip, a retracement that could potentially happen, in which this is going to act as demand zone where buyers are going to want to step in to continue this rally. So that's just something to keep as an insight there. But overall move again, I'm projecting 46.24 if we continue to push at this rate. Now it is possible at some point we can get news that could end up changing this projection, this direction. And then we could end up revisiting this resistance line at a later time. But that's what I'm targeting overall there on S&P. So I'll leave that with you guys. But again, pretty much the demand zone is what I would emphasize more, because you're likely to, gap down or have a red day as you continue to push so high, because remember, you're more volatile when you're higher up. You're not as volatile when you're lower down. So that's why I think it's a little more important emphasizing the demand zone in which you want to be able to pick up calls. You want to wait for that level rather than, just pointing north, because it could easily be by tomorrow morning, Nasdaq will be up 100 points as it's already pushing over 82 points. All right. So I'll leave you with that with S&P. Nasdaq, a little bit of a similar scenario here. As you see, still continuation of the inverse head and shoulders, breaking the downtrend. Nice push, a little bit of an expanding wedge, you want to say, as we continue to push north. Next fib that I'm looking at is 15,700, and that'll be, I want to see that break and actually hold before I can even say that we're going another 100 points higher. But 15,700 is the level that I want to see here. That'll give us another, what, 100 and close to 150 point move here on NASDAQ within the next day or two. And then I'll evaluate my next higher target by that. If we end up pulling back for any reason, then my support level I'm looking at is 15,462. So those are the two immediate levels on my fibs here that I'm really looking at. If we fall to support, 14,462. If we could continue to grind higher, then I'm looking at 15,700. All right. Next, let's dive right into the beast itself, Tesla. Did anyone actually end up losing money on Tesla? I hope no one ended up losing money on Tesla. I really hope that was not the case today. But opening range here, as we see, we got this massive gap up. I ended up, again, this is pretty much, these gray shaded areas are pretty much what I consider, again, as my demand zones. And that's what I really want to emphasize here as we go into tomorrow. So that way you pretty much know what ranges you're looking at and at what points you should be stepping in, not just necessarily chasing like a lot of people did today. FIZZ, ouch. That was definitely not the move today. I mean, if you would have bought it all the way at the top here, yeah, that was a massive wick down. But puts on a day like today, you gotta wait for end of the day on that at least. But as I was mentioning here, I was first looking at the opening range low here, and this is where my bottom of support here of my demand zone lied. And what I was examining for the top of the demand zone is pretty much where these bodies of these candles were lying. So as you see, pretty much this white candle right here, my resistance lied right against the body of that candle, and then we lied against the body of this candle in the middle here, this little blue candle. So that was pretty much your buy zone right here. So you wanted to get an entry below 949, below 945. Is that 45? 49 was in range. So below 949 was where you want to get an entry, and you would have got that at opening range low, which was just around that 945 as well. Okay, so we opening range was, let me just make sure of this. Yeah, 949 was that opening range high down to 945. So 949 to 945, that was about a $5 increment in which you wanted to buy within that $5 range there. And that would have been pretty much your golden ticket right there, taking that entire ride all the way up. So then as I saw that continue to ride, I pretty much, all I did was I just drew my resistance going across now. And this is what I pretty much did as pretty much the entire day was continuing to go on. So as I saw this reject here, we got a little bit of exhaustion, we pulled back. Next thing you know, you're looking at another demand zone here in which you're looking for buyers to step in. And so as you see pretty much continuously here is that I'm looking for the bodies of the top line as we go across, and I'm looking for the wicks to possibly align as well and the bottom here. So that was another demand zone. That was a beautiful one as we just took off from there, and I'm just stretching out my support lines. And so that's what you're really going to look for going into tomorrow. And that's where I just want to emphasize so that you're not necessarily chasing tomorrow, because the move tomorrow may not be as big as it was today. So you are going to want to be a little more disciplined going into tomorrow. And that's what I want to make sure I emphasize. Consolidation is what we had here. Nice little demand zone. We got a few little wicks holding going sideways. That was another point of entry before we just got that massive rip. And as you see, we pretty much formed a massive little rising wedge action here. As you move up to support now you see a nice little rising wedge in which you would have expected this to be bearish. And if Sid told me that he bought puts, I'm assuming that you bought puts right around this area of the top of the rising wedge, right around that 1000 mark is where you probably got in, Sids. So no, in normal cases that would have been valid, but in this case you would have had to have a tight stop loss, which if you lost 1200, you definitely didn't have enough of a tight stop loss. And so that was a mental error on your part, in which, especially with something as volatile as this, you want to make sure you have a tight stop loss. So you would have wanted to got in at least somewhere on the consolidation level. I would have probably said here if you would have moved up your support level, as you should have. But I was a little bit hard to determine there. So that was a little bit of a mental error there. I mean, especially with Tesla of all names, when it goes parabolic, it goes parabolic. There's no stopping Tesla. So it's hard to time the reversals on Tesla, just to be honest there. But nice push. We wicked out. I think a lot of people took profits right around this area, around that 1,000 mark. If I push down, I think it was right around the middle, lower end of this candle right here. So a lot of people took profits right around that 1,000 mark. That was more so the mental target right there. And so a lot of people ended up taking profits, and then you just pretty much either entered to chase the move back up, and you probably lost some money on the way up because it wicked you down back pretty fast, or you ended up just watching this entire run, just probably crying. So that was pretty much what Tesla did. It just literally ripped faces. But what I like to see was that on that pullback here, you got a nice little consolidation here, which it created another demand zone for you to buy. And so I'm going to watch for this demand zone tomorrow, even though as according to futures right now, it's looking likely that we're going to get some kind of gap up again tomorrow. But if for any reason we get a reversal, we get a pullback tomorrow, I'm looking for this demand zone to be my next buy in for tomorrow morning. So I'm looking for this to be below 1017 and above 1014, which is a little bit of a tight range. It's about a $3 range right there. I can expand a little bit higher. If you want to say 1013 to 1020, you could buy within that range. And that's what I'm going to be looking for tomorrow if Tesla holds slightly red to flat tomorrow. And that'll be one point there. Otherwise, if we end up gapping up again, keep in mind what's the range high and what's the range low. So either you're going to try and buy near the low end of the opening range, or you're going to try and wait until we break the opening range high. So those are the two things that you want to keep an eye on for tomorrow. All right. But the only other thing that kind of scares me just a little bit is it kind of does look a little bit like a head and shoulders. You do have that curl, you have that consolidation, which kind of creates a left shoulder right here. You have that peak, which creates a head, a very peaked head. And then you have the consolidation, and then you have the curl here, which is pretty much the opposite and inverse there. And so this forms a right shoulder, which is a little bit of a concern right there. So that could potentially, hopefully, it just dips down to the demand zone, and that'll be all. But it is entirely possible that we retrace back to that 1,000 mark, in which that was pretty much the mental target right there. We could end up using that as support until later on in the week, in which my overall target would be 1100. I think Dougie also has the same target. So I think we're going to open range up to 1100. It may not be tomorrow, because tomorrow could obviously be a consolidation after a 100 and something point move today. So don't try to force it tomorrow is what I will say. Just kind of wait for that opening range high or low to make your move here. If we do gap up, or you wait for the demand zone, as I'm pretty much showing you right here. And that'll be where you pretty much just, if you made a mistake today, you're pretty much looking to make sure that you're more disciplined tomorrow, is what my emphasis was going through the entire chart here from top to bottom. All right. So moving on beyond that, I wanted to point out I am holding puts on LULU. If you caught that on the small account, I was a little bit pretty much not paying attention to the small account for the most part. And so I did take a trade here at towards the end of the day. And I pretty much just like the rising wedge formation that Lulu's forming. I did see a little bit of puts come in. You have two gaps to be filled. One gap's going to be filled below 423. And then you also have another gap within the range of 415. So I'm going to be watching for that. I do think that my profit taking area will likely be right around 418. That's another level of support that I'm also watching. But of course, we need to break this level of support first before we get down to any of these levels. So we'll monitor tomorrow. Hopefully, this actually kind of revives the small account, and then we can propel higher with some bigger plays. Because obviously, right now with this account size, it's a little bit more difficult getting into some of the larger plays. I could have ended up getting into Tesla, but that is also pricey and a lot more volatile. So hopefully we can get some pretty much some growth going there, and we'll go from there. Next ticker I was watching was Coin, as this one pretty much just went parabolic today. This was just an insane move, and I'll watch for some continuation, although it was a very large move today. So I would expect some kind of retracement, some kind of consolidation before this continues to shoot north. But I don't know if you remember last week, or I think it was earlier last week, I did mention that there were buyers that stepped in on Coin. They bought 350 calls for the beginning of November. And so as we see right now, they are paying right now. And this was just a beautiful move since the last time that we broke out. This was October 18th. We broke out of this little wedge. It's just been going north as Bitcoin just continues to boom and stays high. And so I'll be watching for this one. If we get some kind of sideways action, that'll be a beautiful entry here. I would hopefully like to get in if I can get in here. If we get a retracement down to this 311 mark, 312, that would be a beautiful buy-in area for me. And I will be watching for that entry. Is he really talking about steel right now? Wow. But 311, 312, that'll be my buy-in area for coin. If not, I can end up seeing us pretty much likely gapping up at this rate as futures just moon. But I can see us opening up range to 332 and then potentially 346, as which those buyers of the 350 strike will likely be happy and probably cashing out near that point. So I'll keep an eye on coin. I'm really looking for the pullback rather than chasing it. So if it ends up gapping up, I may not pretty much look to take it unless it's pretty much just a day trade. So I'll keep an eye on it though. I'll monitor it. UPST was another one here today. Kind of looks like it got away from me. This is a little bit of an ascending broadening wedge. So we're pretty much breaking the downtrend here. If I end up drawing this resistance line, as you see right now, we're now breaking that downtrend. And I think I can get a better color so it's a little more identified right there. So you see that's a clear downtrend that we're trying to break here. So I'm going to watch for this one. If I can at least get my entry below this range of 368 and it doesn't gap up that above that, then I will look to play this one tomorrow because I know UPST does run hard, and even after a $17 move today, I know this one can actually pick up steam yet again tomorrow. So this will be a beautiful one for a day trade tomorrow. Again, if I can get an entry and it's below this 360, 369 will be the top. But under 369, I'll take an entry here, and I'll look for a day trade on this one because this will run, and when it runs, it usually runs very hard. So that'll be a nice day trade on that one. AFRM, I know that Avery was actually watching this one today, and I believe also SIG. I can point out the technicals on AFRM, but honestly, I'm sure that everyone's going to be in once Tay goes into chat and pretty much just says that I'm in AFRM because he pretty much loves AFRM now. I don't know if he actually played Tesla or not. Tom will probably be able to answer that, but I wasn't even sure because I didn't hear him say anything about Tesla. I only heard him say something about AFRM. But this is just a beautiful one. I pretty much plotted it out as a ascending channel, and for those of you who've probably seen this pattern already play out here, I never changed it practically. But even though you see it break above and below, it's pretty much respected this support and resistance line for the better part of this entire channel. And so as you see, you pretty much bounce right off the support levels here. And so I'm going to watch for us to hold. I do have, it's basically right at the lower end of pretty much the middle of the candle is in my favor around that 160 mark. And so my lower entry here would be right around 157. Mid 157 will be a beautiful entry if we get any kind of retracement here or any kind of opening red tomorrow. That would be a beautiful entry around that 157 mark. Otherwise, targeting 168 and 171 for the overall move. Sounds echoey. Am I sounding better for you? I think it's just you and Tom, actually. It could be. Just saying. Let me know if it continues, though. I'll take a look at it. What's up with DWAC? Actually, I gotta look at DWAC. I gotta see what DWAC really did. But let me just go through these few last tickers here. I think I have like two more, and then I'll take a look at DWAC for you guys. But another one, keep an eye on this one. They actually had news today, Disney. Even though I don't like Disney in particular, and I'm sure there's some other people that don't like Disney. But Disney did get a nice bounce right off a key support level. They also did announce today that they're raising price on tickets. So definitely keep an eye on this one. We can open range into this gap fill. So that's really what caught my attention more so than just pretty much the name Disney. But we can open up range into the gap fill above 178.89. Wait, take that back. Above 173.34. And then we open up range into that gap fill, and that gap fill completes at 175.04. So I'm primarily looking just for the gap fill. I'm not looking for anything else in particular because Disney does like to break hearts. mouse is just not that nice. So when it runs hard in a specific day. But if you're looking for continuation, sometimes it's a little bit hard to come by. So just a heads up on that one. Who mentioned Roku? I saw someone mention Roku. All right, so here was Roku. This was a little bit premature. I will say that in terms of what I'm looking at. But I think I can go down to a lower time frame. Probably looks a little bit better. All right, there we go. So what I'm potentially looking at is an inverted head and shoulders if this does play out. So we have a nice little left shoulder right here as we curled up, a nice little head right here, which is pretty massive as we peaked at that 350 level. And then so we also are potentially forming our right shoulder here. I do want to see how this curls up. And the other factor to keep in mind is that we ended up breaking the uptrend. So we're going to at least typically retest the breakdown as resistance, in which is more than likely we end up testing this around the 341, 342 range for the resistance. And I'm going to want to see this actually break over the resistance in order for me to really validate that this is an inverted head and shoulders. So if we end up breaking over this resistance, then I would actually feel a little more comfortable. Otherwise, you're just playing this to the range of 341, 342 for the pretty much the test of resistance. All right. But that's a very premature right shoulder, so do keep that in mind. And then also you see this resistance line that I have drawn here. I do want to see this also cross because this is pretty much acted as a gap right here, and this is also acted as a resistance at this point here. So I would definitely want to see it get over that level here. That's right around 331.60. So I want to see it get over that level before I probably even touch this. So I won't get it here looking for like, probably be a dead cat bounce and then we end up breaking support. I don't want to get caught in that. So I'll wait for that 331.60 range to break, and then I'll make that play to 341, 342 to test resistance, and I'll likely leave some runners to see if we break over. If we end up breaking over, then I'll re-add to my position, right? So that would be my game plan as far as Roku. I think I actually covered everything. Yeah, I did cover everything. All right, so you guys wanted to look at DWAC. What is DWAC actually doing? It actually, wow, it's actually red. I can't even look at the 2 hour. Do I have to go down to like the 3 second chart for this? Probably have to go to like a 3 second chart for this. We're just going sideways. There's literally no direction to move here. This is literally a sideways action right now. Wow. So let's see if I can even get anything out of this. So if I were to close this in, because you're already at the point at which this is either going to end up breaking out once again, or you're going to end up breaking down to the downside. See if I get a nice support level here. Can we find a nice support level? 1 second. What are you trying to do? I don't know what it is he's trying to do, but okay. So let me see. I'm trying to look for that support level. Let me see what actually looks more realistic here. Got a lot of wicks going on here. So it looks like I identified the support level. So you definitely want to make sure that we're able to hold this lower 80 range. So we can open up down to 81, 82 here. You definitely want to make sure that you hold that support level. So you're pretty much what about $3, $4 off of support. So you definitely want to make sure that you end up breaking that level. Now, if I'm looking for my resistance, to end up breaking out of this, see my resistance here. Right around the body of that candle, I caught that wick. And so I definitely want to see us break out of this resistance, and you'll likely catch that. I think it's a little bit higher than that. Let's see. If I would feel comfortable, yeah, I'm going right into this range here. So I want to see this end up breaking 92. So you definitely need to hold 80, and you need to see it over 92 before this ends up creating this next squeeze. And then you have opening range back up to this high. Although I don't expect to get back to that high. I was actually expecting a better reaction given that today was actually the first day that options actually opened. That was not the case, so it looks like they just went in heavily trying to short this, and that's what brought it down. So I would wait for that range to pretty much open. Wait to see if buyers actually step in at this 80 level or if they end up breaking down below the support level. or if we end up getting back over 92, and then that'll open higher range. All right, so that would be what I would pretty much tell you. And it looks a little bit like this is a heavy resistance right here as well. So this is also something else to keep in mind. I'll put that in a little bit of a different color right there. But this is definitely a red flag right here. This 122 mark is definitely a high resistance. So keep that on alert, especially if you're entering over that one, if that over that 92 level. Don't look all the way up here first. You're definitely gonna want to look at this 122 level first. All right, so don't try and hold and diamond hold it. I don't suggest that. That's definitely not the way to play this. Again, look at your key levels: 80, 92, and 122. Those are the three key levels I'm gonna leave you with. On DWAC, don't try to force it and just buy and hold and be on a prayer. Okay, but those are the three levels I'll leave you guys with on those. Baba, the last time I actually looked at Baba, I think they actually had a double top, if I'm not mistaken. Did they have a double top? Let's see if I open up the chart here. So yeah, they actually did double top. So we had a double top right at 182.09. So that's not in my buy zone right now because now we just pretty much open the floodgates into this gap fill. So that is something to really keep an eye on if you're in Baba right now. And if I'm looking for a level of support, and I'll pretty much just move this line down for you. If I'm looking for a level of support that you really want to hold onto, I'm looking right around this range right here, in which that's looking at 174. So it's about a $2 drop potentially. If it breaks below 174, then you definitely want to exit because then now you're opening those floodgates right there into that gap fill. So you definitely need to hold 174 to retest this gap fill if that be the case, to retest the double top. Otherwise, below 174, you're going into the gap fill. All right. But yeah, I saw that double top before and I didn't like it in particular. It gapped up $10 in China. Well, then I guess that Boeing doesn't really care about TA because usually a double top, you're not going to just gap over it. But it is Baba, so, and it is very oversold, so I can understand it. But if it actually gaps up, which it's typically doesn't gap up the same amount that it is in China, but then you're looking at this gap fill right here. And as you see, there's so many gaps on Baba that it's created, which is just insane. But I think you're opening up this gap fill right here, which would be pretty much more enticing. Depending, if you're saying that's opening up $10 here, then yeah, you're looking right around this range here of that opening gap of over 186.26. And then that'll be what you're going to watch. And of course, if it breaks over that, then of course you have another gap fill here over 189. And that'll be what's in play. Baba, not Boeing. I don't even want to talk about. Wait, Boeing actually has earnings. They have earnings on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I really love Boeing. I just love them. Why do you think my name is Air Drake? I actually have a Boeing plane. Duh. But I don't want to look at Baba anymore. But like I said, if it actually gaps up over this 182 over '09 on that double top, then you're looking at these gap fills. The next gap fill that it's over its range, its opening range, and that's what's going to be in play. All right. Let me see. I'm going to do one last ticker and we'll call it a night because I know that a lot of people are out here trying to watch Monday Night Football. So let's see. I'm definitely not going all in BA. I wouldn't even drop 2 cents in that ticker. Not going to happen. I'd rather play the mouse than play BA at this point. And they're equally bad. Let's see. Blink is already a newsletter play. So I don't think I really need to touch bases on that one. The chart is pretty much there in the newsletter. I'm deciding between CNHI and Pfizer. My AMD chart's already on Twitter. I already put that one. PayPal. Ugh. PayPal actually has earnings, so that one's a little bit of a no-no right now because you're either gonna get a dead cat bounce or because I don't necessarily expect earnings run up after it gave back most of its morning gains here. But I'll look at Pfizer. Let's pick Pfizer. The Bucks aren't playing. Yeah, actually, I want to see Geno Smith. Actually, I mean, he was horrible with the Jets, but he actually looks pretty decent with the Seahawks. He threw like an 84-yard bomb to DK Metcalf. But wow, Pfizer. Why does Pfizer look so horrible? This just looks like a bleed out. One thing's for certain though, you did end up breaking the downtrend. So at least that's a good sign. You broke the downtrend. So that's a very good sign right there. So if you did get into calls, then you should have gone into this low range of mid to range of 41 to 40. Yeah, 41 to 42 here. You would have got in right around that range on the breakout. And then you actually have a little bit of a, I want to say this is an ascending triangle. Yes, it is, because those do align. The wick and the candle body does align. So you have a nice little ascending triangle that you have going on here. And also keep in mind with Pfizer, they are actually awaiting FDA approval for their vaccine in children. So if you're actually holding calls on this one, it will likely be news related here very soon. I expect sometime this week. There's not a specific date that I'm aware of. But from what I understand, the FDA is looking to make a determination on the approval so very, very soon. So that could come as early as midweek here. But I do love this beautiful ascending triangle. I was going to say channel. Ascending triangle. And so that does open up range higher. And if I am looking for your next level of resistance, I do like this range right here. So I'll be looking up for this opening range right here of 43.65. That will be my first level of resistance. My next level of resistance, I'm looking right into this area here, right above that consolidation that it had. So next level will be 44.46. So those will be the two levels I'm watching on this break of the downtrend into an ascending triangle, and your two targets right there. All right. So that was a beautiful one right there. I do like Pfizer a lot. I actually think that they're going to probably gap up a lot more than we expect once that vaccine is approved, because they're actually going to be ahead of Moderna, which Moderna is actually in testing phases right now. Moderna actually had news that they had positive data on their phase 2 and phase 3 study. So they're actually behind Pfizer, and J&J is also behind Pfizer. So if Pfizer gets that approval first before all of them, I expect that the chart to actually reflect that, and it'll be a positive note here. So let me see. I think that actually calls us tonight because I'm not gonna go through any more tickets here. I went over a little bit over time here. Ooh, team sprint for Gino. I'll get interesting. We'll see what Gino does. I just want to see the game for Gino, just to see how he does. When he was with the Jets, he pretty much sucked, to be honest. He really stuck up the joint, but the team was also bad too in general. So, but other than that, we'll call it a night. I think my biggest takeaway was pretty much hopefully setting the picture going into Tesla tomorrow. So I hope you guys kind of got that takeaway of what to look for rather than just chasing and getting a random entry. So I do hope that actually helped taking a few extra minutes here tonight trying to go over that. We do have earnings tomorrow, two big ones actually, AMD and Microsoft. So I am bullish on AMD. That was one that I'm pretty bullish on. And then Microsoft, that could actually be detrimental to us because if they actually end up disappointing, that will set a really bad tone for the rest of the big cap tech. And especially since we have Amazon coming up, we have Apple coming up, which those two giants can also either make or break this rally that we have in the market. Because especially with the supply chain issues, with the chip shortage, they have a lot to prove with their earnings. But we'll get into details as we approach Amazon and Apple. But right now, Microsoft has been literally a model of consistency. So we want to make sure that there's no flaws that they pretty much expose tomorrow after hours. And that will literally probably either hurt the markets or we pretty much continue this rally as we see futures are still pretty much, we're up pretty modest. Tech futures are up over 70 points. So it's likely, highly likely, and I think the crystal ball would say that Tesla's going to gap up tomorrow. But I'll see you guys on live tomorrow. We'll call it a night. Again, you guys have a good night, and I will see you guys tomorrow. All right. Have a good